Hello and welcome to another edition of DIY Indie Musicians Talking Music. And today I am talking with Gozer Godspeed. Got it right?
No.
I didn't. Goodspeed. Oh my God. Oh my God. Anyway, this will be a good one. Usually when I botch the name, it's a good interview. so, so listen. To start off, you were saying when we were talking before we started that you released a new single last week.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with that?
Okay, well, thanks for having me on, by the way. It's
Oh,
a
it's my
pleasure.
pleasure.
And you're just the latest in a long line of people to mispronounce my name, so don't worry.
Well,
Don't
there you go.
feel
I
bad.
wasn't.
Good.
Anyway.
Um, yeah, so this time last week, Lights and Lines, which is my record label, put out my latest track, which is called
Mhm.
Full Tilt Revival. It's the first of Lights and Lines summer singles series
Yep.
from each of the acts that are on the label, and it's to celebrate 1 year of Lights and Lines being in existence and 1 year since we put out the first album. Which was my album called Ghosts of the Future and Past. So Full Tilt Revival is quite special to me because
Mhm.
it's the first track from a new album which won't be out until the spring of next year. So this is a long way ahead. But it's the first track that I have ever 100% completely self-produced in my home studio and played all of the instruments.
Mhm.
And that wasn't something that I necessarily had planned to do.
Mhm.
But it's the kind of thing that you learn to do when there's a pandemic on.
Yep. I have I had a very similar trajectory.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
I managed to listen to it actually earlier on today. I was going through your stuff on Spotify,
All right.
and it's a little bit of a departure for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stylistically, I thought it was interesting. I mean, I felt like with your earlier stuff, so from the previous album, there's definitely a strong sort of singer songwriter
Yeah.
influence to it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I
sure. Yeah.
noticed things. I mean, I used to years and years ago. I really liked Al Stewart,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
noticed
Right.
some similarities to that. And then there was some stuff that was a little bluesy, which was also interesting. But this one, it's you've stepped into the modern age a bit more. I had that feeling. Is the rest of the album similar to that, or?
Yeah. I mean, the truth of the matter is, yes, I am a singer songwriter, and that's how I would always classify myself.
Mhm.
But and guitar is my primary instrument, and that
Yep.
tends to be what I write most stuff on.
Mhm.
But I I've never been interested in being constrained by a genre. I've become known, if you like, well known in local circles for being more of a blues player or a blues folk player,
Yep.
and that's only really a small part of the story because over the years I've been in rock bands, metal bands, folk duos, funk bands, all kinds of different stuff, and all of that. My musical tastes are exceptionally broad,
Right.
and the my band, who are called my live band, called
Mhm.
Gozer Goodspeed and the Neon Gamblers, we're a three-piece, and we don't use acoustic instruments at all. It's exceptionally funky, exceptionally rocky, really bluesy, but it's a kind of it's a mishmash of styles
Yeah.
that all hopefully kind of create a kind of propulsive energy on stage. And so I think going into this record, playing everything myself, I'm really looking to kind of just broaden my palette a little bit, because the beauty of being able to record at home now and produce at home is that I have freedom and time to experiment, which is what I don't have when I go into someone else's studio.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm gonna do whatever I want.
No,
And
it's a great attitude. I don't know about yourself, but I find when I write a song, I tend to let the song dictate what it is,
oh, totally.
as opposed to coming in and saying, "Oh, I'm going to write a blues number," or "I'm going to write,"
Oh God, yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. What I've found with doing it this way is I'm writing in a different way, and instead of having things written on the guitar and ready to go,
mhm.
what I really do is I find a bass groove that I like or a drum groove that I like,
Yep.
and then I'll lay down some keys and think, okay, I kind of like the vibe of this. And now I'm getting an idea for something else to go over the top of it. And you build things up that way, which for
Yep.
me is an unusual way to do things because previously I've been very much I've written the song. Now I'm going to go into the studio and make that song as great as I can make it by collaborating with other people.
Right.
Um, so for me, this is very much a kind of pushing my musical boundaries and skills as far as I can go because there's nobody else involved at this stage.
No, no, it's exciting. And what sort of setup have you sort of achieved in your studio?
Well, for me, it's more about gear than it is about sort of high end computers or
Yep.
do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So my philosophy is high end results with budget end gear if I can get it, but don't skimp on the instruments or the microphones.
Fair
See
enough.
what I mean?
Yeah, no,
My
fair enough. So in that case, let me think. So you're playing the bass as well?
Yeah, I'm playing. The only thing that I can't play live is the drums.
Yeah.
I just simply don't have the setup or the room for drums. So I'm working with programming drums,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
but using live drum samples.
Okay.
So
And are you using MIDI
yeah,
or
I'm
using
using
loop?
I'm using MIDI for most of it. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit of a hodgepodge.
Mhm.
Um,
I
uh,
find I find though you can get excellent results from that.
oh God,
Like
yeah,
I'm using even just the free stuff from someone like Steve Slate.
right,
The,
okay,
the quality of the actual drum sounds
yeah,
are exceptional. I mean, you know, you
sure,
couldn't afford to record in the studio that they did,
no.
quite simply.
I mean,
And
the trick for me is always with MIDI drums and sample drums. I don't want you to know necessarily.
yeah,
I don't want you to think about the fact that those drums are not recorded
yeah.
in a live situation. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I
Oh
don't
no,
want
no,
them to sound
totally. I
fake.
mean, it's funny because the previous project that I worked on was all very sort of I had developed this way of using samples, and a lot of it was very edited, and the drum sounds were all sort of programmed from this app that I was using.
Yeah.
Whereas with this new project that I'm doing, I'm working with a guitarist for a lot
Okay.
of the stuff. So he's contributing guitar parts, and I've got someone else who contributed. There's a song with a harmonica on it that sounds
Oh,
really good,
nice. Yeah.
which is sort of fun, and it works well because the song is actually one of the few that I used a lot of my old techniques on. But many
Right.
of them I've done with MIDI. And what I did for the drums, it was interesting. I just got online and do you know you probably know who Rick Beato is?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Rather a
Yeah.
big sort of music YouTube guy. And he did, I think, one or two episodes on how to do drums,
Mm-hmm.
how to do MIDI drums, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just followed his advice, and he shows basic beats, and you just do it on the keyboard, but you're
Yeah.
actually playing it,
Sure.
so you can, and then you can go in and quantize it and fix it afterwards. But yeah, you want to try to imagine how a drummer would drum, and then get as
Yeah.
close as
Well,
you can to that
that's
with
it.
whatever limited abilities you have. I guess is the
Well,
best way to put it.
I always think about my drummer,
Uh-huh.
because his name is Charlie Bishop, and he's one of the best drummers I've ever played with live. I
Yeah.
mean, you can go any. That's the great thing about the band is you can go anywhere with my live band. You can
Mhm.
go really off piste, and they're right there with you.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm following them, and
Mhm.
we never do the song exactly the same way twice. We're very much a band that likes to jam on stage. But I
Yep.
always, when I'm recording drums, I'm always thinking about how would Charlie play this.
Yeah.
And so when I'm programming them, that's what I'm trying to think. But I would say that probably for this project, learning how to program drums to the standard that I want them to sound has
Hmm.
been, there's been a very steep learning curve involved in that prior to starting this.
Yep.
I'm just pleased that I've got to where I've got to now. Let's put it that way.
No, it's good. No, that's excellent. And so what else? I'm assuming you can play keys as well.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I can play everything apart from the drums. So, you know, I'm a guitar player, and I love the guitar. And I'm very obsessive about guitar tones, and you know, the whole
Hmm.
of your life sometimes is just a quest for better guitar tone. Um, but I also I love production, and you know, I really enjoy pushing myself and seeing where the kind of like the edges of my ability are.
Hmm.
So I'm by no means a keyboard player, a live keyboard player, but I
Yeah.
can, you know, if I've got 100 goes at it, I'm going to get it right. And I'm good at picking out melodies that I like, and I make a few mistakes, but you know, I'm a much better bass player. I can play some fairly proficient bass and have some fun on bass,
Hmm.
and everything else, obviously, you can do on a MIDI keyboard
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So it's
Yeah.
just for me, it's really about it's just about pushing my limits
Yeah. No,
and
that's
having fun, finding the
exactly.
stuff that really gets me going.
No. But that makes perfect sense. I mean, and the other thing is don't discount mistakes because
Oh, I never do.
every mistake is a potential hook.
Yeah,
You know, is
yeah,
what
yeah,
I've
yeah.
found, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm entirely self-taught with music, so
Hmm.
I mean, nobody has ever sat me down and taught me anything in a formal setting. So
Right.
everything I've ever learned has been teaching myself in the first instance, and that's how I'm most comfortable. But the
Okay.
beauty of that is the way that I create music is it's completely instinctual.
Yeah.
So that's all I can do is follow my own instincts. If it sounds right and I like it, then it stays. And
Yep.
that's really the barometer for it all.
No, I
Um,
totally get it. I'm also untrained. I don't even really consider myself a musician because I don't play anything. I've
really?
just found increasingly complicated ways to fake it.
I
You
like
know.
it. I like it.
Oh no, well listen, it's you might as well take advantage of the instruments we have these days, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and the
sure.
digital world, it opened up a whole new area of, you know, of opportunities and possibilities that didn't exist 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, so true. Yeah.
Although it's interesting, I find I flip back and forth because this new project, I like it's the earlier for a while what I was trying to do was create rock songs using non-traditional instruments or non-traditional sounds, right? But
Okay.
very much following the idea of rock. And with this new one, it's weird because most of the composition that I've done has been piano based, and
Okay.
that'll be the basic track, and then I'll throw it to my guitarist and let him do his stuff,
Hmm.
and then mix it all together, and and then I'll start as well. I'll do some editing of his guitar parts, like if he does something that I really like, I'll see if I can't turn that into a hook,
Yeah.
and sort of cutting, because I found I'm quite good at cutting and pasting stuff.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
I can look at a wave file and really I'm weirdly visual in
Okay.
terms of music, which shouldn't make any sense, but it does. Like I can
No, I
look at
think
a
it
wave
makes sense.
file and
Yeah. Yeah.
know, and then I've picked up, because you'd know that after years of doing this stuff, you start picking up little tricks that
Oh,
could
yeah.
work,
Yeah.
like little things, and then you start using them. And I just, musically, I'm obsessed with a few things. I'm very obsessed with uh sort of dead spaces, like where like the spaces between the notes.
Okay.
Um
Sounds like you should be writing jazz.
yeah, but to be honest with you,
You
I'm
you were
not
just about to say you
musically.
hate jazz.
Well, no, because I don't, but I do.
Okay.
I find that, listen, the great jazz players were
Mhm.
great, right? And
Right.
anything sort of pre-bebop,
Yeah.
I like all the big band stuff. Uh,
Okay.
like a lot of that, Duke, all of that kind of stuff. It's great music, right?
Yeah.
Um, Once bebop happened, the exceptional musicians were exceptional, right? So those
Yeah.
great Miles Davis and and Coltrane
Well,
records, those
yeah.
were great records, and they're
Yeah. Yeah.
well
Yeah.
worth.
Yeah.
They're on the same scale as any classical music in terms of listening, like the amount it'll give back, right?
Sure.
If you spend the time to actually listen to it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Like
thinking of stuff like Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers.
exactly. Yeah, no, there's a whole period of that. Like
Yeah.
all of those
Bitches
classic great
Brew.
albums were just great albums.
Yeah.
Like
I'm hearing a big but coming.
but the thing is, anyone without that degree of creativity
Yeah.
mixed with being really good musically, like technically good,
Mhm.
ends up being the kind of jazz I don't like,
Right. Okay.
which I find is pretentious and extremely boring to be because it's like a form of masturbation, I find.
Ooh.
And I'm just not interested
You're
in.
gonna enrage the jazz purists with
Oh yeah, well
that.
that's fine. I mean, it's not as if I really care.
Just watch your YouTube comments fill up with enraged jazz
Well,
pianists.
listen, I'll accept any comments. It's hard enough to get any comments, so enraged ones could be, you know.
Careful what you wish for.
Oh no,
Careful what
no,
you wish
it's
for. I
but
I
I don't
hear
know.
I hear what you're saying. All I feel is when I see or hear the right kind of jazz for
Mhm.
me it's extremely energizing. I'm by no means any kind of jazz player myself,
Yeah.
and I think that's why I like to hear it. Is because for me it's absolutely outside of my skill set. Really, I love
Yeah.
improvisation, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna need some kind of formal structure. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, no,
Um,
totally.
uh, so I find every now and then I'll see a jazz band play and they'll blow me away, or see a particular soloist in a jazz band
Mhm.
situation who will blow me away. But I do understand your point of view, and I can see how you could feel that way.
Yeah, I don't wa it's just because not everyone can do what the greats were able to do. And it's like
No,
when you really listen to like a one of Coltrane's best solos,
yeah,
what he does with that melody and the the improv, it isn't just the improvisation, it's the thought behind the
yeah,
way he deconstructs it and reconstructs
yeah,
it, and then it comes back in again,
yeah,
when they finally bring it all back. And that is there's it's an exceptional music form for that. There's
yeah,
nothing
and
else that that achieves that. But
that's right. You can almost hear his entire intellect behind the music.
yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah,
It's truly one of these things where you really see inside the thought process.
yeah.
Like in a way that I mean, Jimi Hendrix with some of his guitar solos
I was just about to say that as well.
was
Yeah.
the same kind of thing. But
Mhm.
let's face it, like most guitarists aren't Jimi Hendrix. And what
No.
bothers me is the ones where it's like they're trying to achieve it and they don't have the talent to. And then it becomes no, but then it becomes it's formulaic, but
Yeah,
it's formulaic with this attitude of superiority that it hasn't earned.
I see what you're
Is almost
saying.
what I would say music that I'd prefer something that is more authentic,
Mhm.
right? That might
Yeah.
not be as well. I think it's the pretentiousness of it that
I
bothers
think
me with
I think
jazz.
I understand what you're saying, and I think that I would probably agree just about all music in as much as what I respond to is passion and authenticity. And
Yes.
not everybody is able to conjure those two things in equal measure.
Yeah.
And I think any kind of music where any genre of music where I can feel something and I can feel the passion and hear
Yeah.
the talent and the energy, and if it gets me, it gets me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, no, totally. Like when we were talking about that, what popped right in my head and it has to be one of the most low-tech recordings imaginable, but an absolutely killer record was, do you remember Michelle Shocked?
Shell shocked.
I'm pretty sure it was Michelle Shocked. The name of it was her first recording. It was
Right.
called the Campfire Tapes.
Okay.
And it was
Rings.
literally you're playing acoustic guitar in front of a campfire
Yeah.
live,
Oh,
right?
right.
And all original stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and just unbelievable. You know what I mean? It, like the moment was captured, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was so authentic. You know, it was so immediate. But
Mm-hmm.
this was recorded on, probably a better tape recorder, but it wasn't, a multi-million-dollar or even like a modern recording in a good setup at home. I mean, this was as simple as you can get.
Yeah.
But I think that was what made it. So you should check it out. It's great.
I will.
I mean,
Yeah.
with you, because she's also very singer-songwriter
Uh-huh.
type stuff, and an early sort of version of that sort of female emo,
Oh,
type
okay.
of
Yeah, I
singer. You know what I
understand.
mean?
Yeah,
She
yeah,
would have
yeah.
fit right in at that festival that what was it, the Lilith Festival or whatever it was called?
All right. Send me a link. That would be
Yeah,
good.
no, I'll see if I can find. It must be
Yeah.
on, like everything else. It's on Spotify. No, I'll send you a link after we're done, and if I
Yeah,
find it, I
great.
can put it down in bottom or something like that.
It's like it's like a lot of those early Dylan recordings as well.
Yeah.
It's just there's a certain lack of any kind of studio trick going on that you're
Mhm.
aware of, and it just seems very raw and very honest. It's why I like a lot of those early blues records as well, because it's just a guy or a girl and a guitar or a
Yeah.
piano or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's as stripped down as it gets, but there's so much energy. There's
Yeah.
so much energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
And
like the early recordings, like Hank Williams stuff.
yeah,
Just
absolutely.
unbelievable. The
Yeah,
performances as well. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
yeah, but it's that lack of pretentiousness, I guess. That's
yeah,
one of the keys for me.
yeah. I was trying to think. I mean, I I went through a stage when I was learning to play guitar many, many years ago. My first band was a metal band, and I became really obsessed with those extremely technical
Mhm.
players, and that led me on to people like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know these guys. You
Yeah, yeah,
probably
no,
do.
I'm familiar with
Anyway,
them.
so they're kind of revered gods in the arena of guitar, and they're amazing. They're amazing people. They're amazing musicians, but I can't really listen to it these days, and I think uh, you know, it's different when you see them play live. I think there's something
Mhm.
different going on, and every
Yeah,
time I see Satch or Vi play live, be it on video or whatever, I can't take my eyes off it.
yeah.
But on the records, I can't. I find that I tune out a little bit,
Mhm.
and they just don't get me the way that more traditional song structures get me, because it's there's loads of technique and they've got loads of feel, but it's more about kind of like, look what I can do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I, I'm in awe of their technical ability, but I can't. There's a certain sort of
No, no, you know what
emotion
that is,
missing.
though?
Yeah,
If I can interject, what that is they're not being true to the song, right?
yeah,
So
but
so the song's irrelevant because it's all about their soloing or it's all about their playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult really to perhaps I should have used some different examples, because actually I was thinking about Steve Vai then, and he did do there've been, I mean, he's done loads of albums,
Mhm.
and there were some albums where he concentrated on songs and he had guest singers in and all that kind of stuff, and some of them are really really good. But I just mean that, like um like what's his name? Yogi Malmsteen, or I can't remember how you pronounce his name properly.
Yeah.
But it's just that kind of like ultra technical playing,
Mhm.
and shredding and all that kind of thing. I kind of I can watch it for a minute or two, but there's nothing that I can get out of that emotionally, if you
Yeah.
know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm looking for. Is I like songs and I like connection. I like emotion. That's why
Yeah,
I think we've probably gone in a big circle with this conversation, but yeah,
no, but it makes, you know, the thing is, it does make perfect sense, you know.
yeah.
I mean, the one that I would consider, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on in terms of virtuosity and, well, just plain craziness, is as a guitarist, is Robert Fripp.
Oh, yeah. Well, I
And
mean,
any of his projects, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, Fripp he's brilliant though, isn't he? He
He's
is.
just, it's
He
that, well,
is
it's those
brilliant.
bands, you know. I was talking
Yeah.
last night. I did the other interview. I was talking, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it was interesting. We got onto that. Do you ever see, there's that live performance of King Crimson? I guess it's like one of the newer iterations. I think it was from a couple of years ago,
Right.
where they were touring, I think right before COVID, I'd guess.
Okay.
And I think all three of the original drummers are back.
What at the same
All
time?
three, yes.
That's a
Right?
lot of drums.
Well, listen, they get a big sound,
Yeah, I
but
bet.
they're all so good that it works, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it works well with that music because it's that precision of that band, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
like the virtuosity. But what's interesting is I can listen to them, and they found a way to sort of go beyond, because they've kept it musically interesting. Because
Yeah,
compositionally, the songs, like those later King Crimson albums, had some great songs on them. You
yeah.
know, they were really epic, you know, like epic pieces of music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it can work. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Fripp was, you know, is in his own. Some of the stuff, I keep looking for a guitarist. Like every once in a while, I'll do a song and I can hear it's like a Fripp guitar, and it's like finding someone to do it for you. You just give up after a while. I don't think there's, you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think it's
Although a
one
lot of
thing.
it's probably the pedals and effects and whatever to get, you know, you were talking about the elusive tone. Well, he's got a tone,
Yeah. I
you know.
think why the guitar players that I like the most are the ones that they're immediately identifiable.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, just you hear a couple of notes and you go, that's
that's him.
Hendrix, that's Clapton, or somebody, you know, one of my favorite guitar players actually was John Lee Hooker. Like, still, nobody sounds like John Lee Hooker.
Yeah.
Nobody plays guitar. That sound that he's got doing so much with seemingly very little.
Mhm.
You know, amazing. And so I think I when I was talking earlier on about how I taught myself to play, I
Mhm.
went about everything the wrong way. I got a guitar uh, when I was 15. I learned to play electric. I taught myself to play. This is before the age of digital tuners, and I didn't tune my guitar the same way twice. But within 6 months, I was playing with a metal band
Yep.
as their lead guitar player, right?
Wow.
Uh, and I was terrible, and so
Yeah.
were they. But it put me in a room with other people playing music and
Yep.
forced me to listen. And you know, you grow exponentially, don't you? Just by virtue of doing.
Yep.
Uh, and then, and only then, did I start to think actually maybe metal is a bit limiting. And I was going home and I was listening to Hendrix and funk music and kind of all kinds of other stuff. And I thought this is not going to work for me. And then I bought an acoustic. And then I started to write songs, but I didn't think that I was going to sing. I didn't think that I was a singer. So I was writing songs for other people to ruin,
Mhm.
but I still wasn't learning anybody else's stuff. And so
Yeah.
I went through this stage of kind of writing loads and loads of songs, just trying to express myself, teaching myself to play, and really going about it all the wrong way. And then and only then when I started to develop a style of my own, did I start learning other people's songs. And it was a very backwards kind of way of doing things. But these days, I'm so glad that I did do things that way because I think I sound like me when I play the guitar. I don't sound like someone who taught me to play. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh no, totally. And
So,
that, you know, and that's something that you can't, you can't learn. I guess, or but it's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and it's something that I think for me as well. It defines an artist that I find interesting
uh-huh,
versus one who is bland.
yeah,
It's their personality, right? It's that effect, like you were saying with Hendrix. You listen to two notes and you know who's on guitar,
yeah,
right? You know who's
exactly.
playing. Or
Yeah.
like JJ Cale is the same way.
Oh, I love JJ Cale. After
Yeah,
Midnight, such a tune. Love that
yeah,
tune.
all of his stuff. He was a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
great
yeah.
songwriter. I mean, Eric Clapton should be thanking him more than anyone else.
Yeah.
I think all of
Mm,
his big hits, pretty well all of them were Cale songs, right?
yeah, that's true.
After
I mean,
Midnight, Cocaine, that's also
yeah,
JJ Cale.
yeah. Cale, what I like about Cale is his delivery as
Yeah,
well. His
yeah,
delivery is so sort of laid back and casual,
yeah, yeah.
most of the
Really
time.
slow hand.
Yeah, yeah, and, his the way he sings, it's just got so much personality.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. Really, really
yeah.
good.
Great band too. His band's really good too.
Yeah, I agree
I mean,
completely.
they really boogie.
Yeah.
No, but they do. It's like but they do that. I don't know. It's like a rock shuffle or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But when they get sort of ahead of steam, I imagine they'd be great to watch live.
Yeah,
I want to
I would
dance to
love to.
all of it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you one of my favorite records, I think actually I probably got it here. I'm sat near my record player.
Yeah.
Um, I love a little bit of Santana, okay?
Hmm.
He's another one who I think is amazing. Sorry, I'm just trying to find I definitely have this record here. I'm gonna show it to you.
Oh no, no,
Um,
please do.
it was recorded in 1970
Yep.
uh, in a dormant volcano. Um, it's this. I don't know if you've ever. Can you see this?
Just oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
this is with what's his name, Buddy Miles, right?
Okay.
And that band on that record, it's
Hmm.
live. It's all recorded live. They are having the best time.
Yeah,
It's one of the best live records I've ever heard.
yeah.
And I mean, it is for something that was recorded, what, 52 years ago?
Hmm.
It is utterly sublime in every way. You have to listen to it. It's a real good, feel good record.
Nice.
Um, and if you're down or something like that, this will
Yeah.
pick you right up. Stunning, stunning record.
Yeah, no, no, it's interesting, especially in the 70s, some of those collaborations.
Yeah.
It's like I came, I was stumbled across on YouTube, which is great for this kind of stuff. J- I'm a big Joni Mitchell fan.
Oh, me too.
I
Yeah.
think she's an absolute genius,
That's another person who sounds
like no
only
one
like
else.
herself on
Yeah,
guitar, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Her guitar playing was amazing.
Well, it was she had childhood polio, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
And
mean, I know the
and she
story.
couldn't. She had a problem with her hand, so I think she was a dulcimer player first.
Yeah,
And she had to, like, all those strange tunings and all that have to do with the fact that she doesn't have complete use of, like, her, I guess it'd be her left hand, right?
yeah,
you know so she had to find ways around not
yeah.
being
Joni
able to
Joni
do
Mitchell
well,
tuning.
but look, Django Reinhardt, he had, what,
Yeah,
two fingers,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's all he
yeah,
needed, right? And
yeah.
that's one of the greatest guitarists of all time, probably.
Well, and Tony Iommi lost all his
Same thing.
fingertips, didn't he?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
no, and he had, well, he created little tips, right?
yeah, yeah,
He tells the story. There's a great documentary on Black Sabbath, and he tells the story. The funny thing, it happened on his last day at work before he was going to start with the band.
no way did it.
You know that? Yeah, he was working in some. It was like I guess like cutting sheet metal or something like that. He was working in some shop, like some industrial job, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And last day of the job, right? He's working, has never had an accident there the whole time. And yeah, he sliced off, I think it was the tip of two or three fingers, something like that.
oh man,
Yeah.
Terrible.
You know, the funny thing, he said he went into the deepest depression. And then I don't know, one of the other guys from the band just said, come and, grabbed him and said, screw that. Come on. You're doing
Yeah.
it. And, look at the results. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr.
Amazing.
Riff Machine.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no one better at riffs than Tony Iommi.
Well,
You know?
yeah. I mean, it's hard to dispute a statement like that.
Yeah, no, but he was just one of those. But they were one of those bands. They created 2 or 3, 4 different genres of music.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
them and
Yeah.
who was the other one? The other band like that was oh geez, it's Motorhead.
Motorhead.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, amazing band, but
No,
how
no,
many
but
genres?
there was it's interesting. They've got a couple of records of
Mhm.
theirs, and thrash. They did the first thrash song. All the speed
Okay.
metal stuff. That's all them. They were the first ones who did it. And there's some
Yeah,
of the
those
earlier
are right.
albums.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and then kids got really into it, and they created subgenres based on like 1 or 2 songs that they did, because they got really fast. And then the
Mhm.
drummer started doing the 2 pedal stuff. That's all from
Yeah,
them,
the
right?
double bass stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all from them, you know.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, they were a
I
great band
I'm
too.
only a casual Motorhead fan, I must
Yeah, I'm
say.
not I'm not a
Uh,
big fan, but it's interesting. Again, like you said, you started in heavy metal and you found it very limiting. It certainly
Yeah.
is that. I mean, a lot to the non-listener, a lot of it sounds very similar, you know.
Yeah, I kind of, I got
It's a
into it
nuanced music.
because of the guitar playing,
Yeah.
and, this was right at the time that Metallica were hitting big with the Black
Mhm.
Album, and you had Megadeth, you had Slash from Guns N' Roses, although, I mean, can't really call them heavy metal, but still, was one of those, like, heavy rock,
Yeah.
players, and then I started getting into heavier and heavier stuff. So for a while, I was into Sepultura and Pantera, with Dimebag Darrell,
Mhm.
who was an amazing player. Actually, I think brought a lot of blues principles to heavy metal guitar. But then I found, I was listening to heavier and heavier and heavier stuff and speed metal, like you say, and stuff. And it just after a while, I started feeling like there was no soul in a lot of it,
Yeah.
and so I had to move away. I still like the odd bit of metal once in a while, but yeah, it was always the guitars that got me into it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but before I forget, the reason why I brought up the Joni Mitchell stuff
Mm.
is I found, like, you should look for it on YouTube. There's a concert of hers that's sort of in the post Mingus period
Mhm.
with that band she had at the time,
Yeah.
with Jaco Pastorius on bass, Pat Metheny on guitar, and I can't remember who else. That tells
Yeah.
you just how much of a musician she was, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
You know what I mean? To get all of like the great contemporary jazz players, and literally that
Yeah.
whole band was basically their, that circle of players,
Yeah.
right? As her backup band. Think about that, right?
Yeah, it's
You
brilliant,
know,
isn't it?
no, it is, and but she was, you feel sorry for what sort of happened when the sort of critics and the record industry sort of turned against her
Yeah.
later in her career. Although some of her best stuff, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you just can't be around for as long as Joni Mitchell without expecting a lot of ups and downs,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
what a life,
yeah,
and what a body of work.
yeah. And where I respect her is she didn't do what a lot of the other greats did
Hmm.
to get that next stage and stay on the good side of the record company and everything, which is to sell out and become like,
Yeah, like a heritage band almost.
well, or
Heritage
I'm
act.
even thinking more sort of Phil Collins when it got
Right. Okay.
just sappier and sappier pop music, or
Hmm.
Elton John is just, anything. I used to love him when I was a kid. Like the everything up till around Captain Fantastic was great,
Yeah.
and since then it's just been garbage. in my mind. No, but quite, you know what I mean? Or
No,
even Stevie
your
Wonder
comments are
was the
filling with
same
Elton
thing.
fans now.
What's that?
Your comments are filling with enraged Elton fans now.
No, I was a big fan of his. Like everything up until, up until around Captain Fantastic, I really liked. But after that, it was just, he sold more
Yeah.
records, and none of them were very, very good because it lost all that the energy and all the the emotionality of his music. Is
Yeah.
talented. I mean, he was a child prodigy, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that. He
I
was
mean,
like,
he's fascinating, really, because imagine being that incredible and not writing any of your own lyrics.
yeah, no,
You know?
but he luckily found like a musical partner early on, right? They
Yeah.
stuck together and they had a great deal of success. But I
They did.
was, I think if I'm not mistaken, he was like a child prodigy who got plucked out to go to, in London, I think there's like a music
Yeah,
academy,
he went to Music Academy.
and he
Yeah.
was their best student, right?
Right. Yeah.
And he was doing session work at 16,
Uh-huh.
17 years old. He was playing on like Beatles records and stuff like that. He
Right.
was really one of those players like Jimmy Page as well. You know what I mean? They were
Mhm.
really, or Clapton for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, they were very talented, very young.
Mhm.
You know, and then he had all of his great period, right? The sort of
Yeah.
early stuff, and then he got really, got really popular.
Mhm.
And then it's then maintaining that when you're touring 200 days a year, right?
Sure. It's very, very
Difficult.
difficult
Yeah.
over such a sustained period of time to be relentlessly creative and relentlessly lauded for
Yeah.
your output.
Yeah.
And even like one of my all-time heroes, Bowie, I mean, he went through some really dog years, didn't he? If you look at
Yeah.
some of those albums in the 80s and the early 90s, it just felt like, oh man,
Yeah, no, I know. And then the
there's
whole Tin Machine stuff too.
yeah, I mean,
Yikes.
there are some pleasures to be had from the Tin Machine records here and there, but they're all too brief, and I don't find myself ever returning to them.
No.
But I always had this belief that Bowie wasn't gone, and that he was about to come back with some amazing stuff. And sure enough, he really proved it all at the end
Yeah.
with those last couple of records. Uh, I just thought were phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and
Yeah,
a
no,
real
Dark Star was really good.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I thought that was amazing, and I was really lucky because I got that on the day that it came out, and
Mm.
I had the whole weekend to listen to it, and I spent that weekend thinking, "God, this is an amazing record. It's an amazing record." And then, of course, he died on the Monday,
Yeah.
and then I couldn't listen to it for ages. And I'm sure this was probably replicated around the world, but
Oh, no, definitely.
I couldn't listen to it for ages. It was just too sad.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I had those few days to
Mhm.
absorb the record and
Yeah.
for it to mean something to me before he was dead.
Yep.
And now I do every now and then. I just got to put it on because
Nice.
it's such an amazing record. But I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the next day.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, that was good. No, I found it
before.
was a bit spotty. There were parts I liked. That what that one where he went into sort of dance stuff. What was it called? The one with the Union Jack. What was it? The one with I'm Afraid of Americans. I thought that was a pretty good record. Outsiders. I think it was
Yeah,
outside, something
yeah.
like that.
I wasn't it called Eye Outside? Was that what it's called?
Oh, I think it was
Um,
one outside. It was supposed to be the first of a trilogy that never got
oh
done,
right,
or something
yeah.
like that.
No,
I
I
thought
was
that
thinking.
was okay. There was some
I was
nice stuff on that, after a few, sort of
yeah.
dodgy albums before then. But what
I
what
quite
in the golden period, what's your favorite record?
what from Bowie?
Yes. Like if we were to take the top 5 albums, I know
Oh,
which ones I would
so
probably
difficult. So difficult. I mean, I
yeah.
love Hunky Dory.
Hunky Dory.
is amazing.
Ziggy Stardust. Those are
Yeah,
both great
of
records.
course, Ziggy Stardust is. I mean,
Uh,
that is that Ziggy is amazing. Aladdin Sane is amazing.
Diamond Dogs.
Diamond Dogs is great. I don't think I love Diamond Dogs as much as I love Aladdin Sane.
That's Diamond Dogs is my favorite. I would
Is
take it
it?
over Aladdin Sane.
You have to be in the mood for Aladdin Sane
Yeah.
because particularly
Well,
once you get
I
to
think they're both
side B.
they're great albums. I mean,
Yeah.
I would add Station to Station to that too, because I really like Station to Station.
See,
You know.
I really think that the last couple of albums that he put out, as I said, The Next Day and Dark Star,
Mm-hmm.
Black Star, wasn't it?
Black Star. Yeah.
Yeah. They are as good as anything else that he put out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was pushed, what's my ultimate favorite Bowie album? It probably is Ziggy. It probably is.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's that album of his that you can listen to from start to finish and it just breezes by and it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, definitely for that, it would be down to that and Honky Dory, because Honky Dory is the same way.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that when Honky Dory was completed, they didn't like it, so they went immediately back into the studio and did Ziggy Stardust. I mean, that is insane.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
absolutely insane. And I mean, another album that's really underrated and I love is The Man Who Sold the World. I mean, that's a great record too.
Oh yeah, man, I love that album.
You know,
I
The
do
Width
love
of a
that album.
Circle. Wow.
That is a great album.
Although stylistically, I liked what he did afterwards. You know, it was, you know what I mean? It was one of those weird albums in the sense that he was very much of the time rather than setting setting the agenda. I think that's the change that happened. But it's a great record. You know,
it is a great record, and I mean, I love the Berlin trilogy, and again, I've got to be in the mood for it.
Mm-hmm.
I quite like. There's an album of his called Reality, and that was I think that was early 2000s, and I quite enjoyed that. It's got a few good tracks on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not the masterpieces, right?
No.
And that's the thing. It's like I can understand some people not liking Diamond Dogs because it's by far one of the darkest records he did. You know?
Yeah, but he's really telling a story on that record, though.
Yeah, and that suite of songs, what is it, Candidate Sweet Thing?
Mm-hmm.
And on side one, like between the two singles, right, between Diamond Dogs and Rebel Rebel, that for me is probably one of the best pieces of music he did. You know, because it's long. I think it's probably about 8, 9, 10 minutes altogether. The three songs, they all blend into one. And there's like Candidate was a great song. It's amazing. It never really got I don't know why, but it never really got the appreciation it should have.
Yeah.
You know,
I really love, I was just thinking about Aladdin Sane again, and stuff like Panic in Detroit.
Yes.
I mean, that's an amazing song.
Yeah. That guitar chord when it starts. Yeah. It's Ziggy in America, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you notice it, but it's with that harmonica that comes in, and then his pianist.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Didn't he have? Yeah, but didn't he have? Rick Wakeman did some work for him as well.
That was earlier, I think.
Was that earlier?
Yeah, I think Rick Wakeman was on.
Was that Hunky Dory?
Yeah. Yeah, he played the piano on Hunky Dory.
Yeah, because he's got a good story about how Bowie basically played the entire album to him in his front room and said, "What do you think?" kind of thing. And he was like, "Wow, this is amazing. What, you actually want me to put some? Yeah, I can try, you know."
Yeah. No, it's no, that whole story, you know, at that point he was hanging around with T-Rex with Mark Bolan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Friends.
Yeah.
And both of them were being produced by Tony Visconti, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Who had sort of discovered. Well, it was interesting because he's from New York originally,
Mm-hmm.
and had been drafted over as a producer to London because no one was really producing new stuff, and
Yeah.
he was like the next generation and young enough, so he went out, and the record label was one of these, one of these production companies that they had in the 60s, one of these operations,
Mm-hmm.
the sort of post Tin Pan Alley or post Brill Building type stuff.
Yeah.
And he was given, just as par for the course, well, go out and find an artist you like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to develop them on your own. This is going to be so that you can do, you know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
learning type thing, it's apprenticeship, right?
Yeah.
And the one he chose was, well, they were called Tyrannosaurus Rex at that time before they shortened it.
Mm-hmm.
And within a year or so, he and Mark Boland had figured out that T-Rex sound.
Yeah.
And they'd had 10 number one hits or something like that in England. That run that they went on of those hits.
Yeah. Yeah.
That quite frankly, it launched Bowie's career, because if it hadn't been for T-Rex, I don't think that the whole glam thing would have happened, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it's
was
really
those two,
interesting.
it was those 2 or 3 big glam hits that Mark Bolan had
Yeah.
that sort of made Ziggy Stardust possible.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely true. I mean, you can hear hints of where Bowie's going to go on Space Oddity.
Yeah.
But that's actually, I really love what I love about that record.
Mm-hmm.
Memories of a Free Festival. That's probably one of my all-time favorite Bowie songs.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going off on a right tangent now talking about
No. It's that's the point of this show.
what has amazed me is that record has never been remixed for like dance venues around the world, because that whole, once it kicks in at the end with "the sun machine is coming down and we're gonna have a party,"
Yeah.
oh, like that is absolutely ripe for some kick-ass
Yeah.
remix, and
Yeah.
I would love to hear that. Someone's probably gonna come and tell me now that there is one, in which case, please do, because I really want to hear it. But I've thought that every time I hear that record, I think, oh man, this would make such a great, such a brilliant needle drop in a dance situation.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
uh,
yeah, no, definitely.
some huge beat behind it would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we've given someone the idea.
But
At
yeah,
least to
but I
do a
mean,
white, or you could always do a white label.
yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll get to it at some point. But
as long as you're not looking to make any money from it,
make money from music? Are you crazy?
Yeah. Well, but then that's the best. Listen, that is by far the best reason to do it. And just do a
Yeah,
white label of it, and
yeah,
it's like, I don't know,
yeah. I what I think I respond to the most about Bowie and Dylan and Neil Young, all these people that were around or have been around for such a long time, is particularly with Bowie, he never stopped throwing ideas at the wall,
Yeah.
you know? And if you go right back to the earliest stuff that he did, you got terrible songs like The Laughing Gnome and all that lot,
Mm-hmm.
and when you hear them now, you just think, God, this is awful. But you would never have known at the time, if you'd heard The Laughing Gnome, that he was going to go on and produce all these incredible bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic because it shows you that there is no, this trajectory that people have in their minds of, oh, you're young, you write a hit record, you go on, you get famous, you put out a couple of good records if you're lucky, and then you burn out and you might become a heritage act or fade away completely.
Yeah.
That's a false narrative, and there are these incredible exceptions to that,
Yeah.
who continuously move forward. And I think somebody like Beck is probably in that bracket as well.
Yeah.
And I haven't responded as well to the last 4 or 5 Beck records, but I still think every time he puts something out, I'm interested.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, and he's one of the few.
Yeah, totally.
Because he still is experimenting.
Yeah, and
right?
you never know what you're gonna get. And
Yeah.
I'd go and watch him play live in a heartbeat.
Oh no, definitely.
But he again had a run of albums really that were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And for even the missteps, it's like Neil Young. Regardless of what you think of his more recent output, you listen to those albums, he is still raging at the world. He's still processing everything
Yeah.
through his own lens, and he's still doing exactly what he wants to do,
Yeah.
and pushing himself in all the different ways that he wants to push himself. And
No,
that is amazing.
Yeah,
He's an
totally.
amazing guy.
Totally.
So yeah, I think that's what I like. I like artists who don't sit still.
And Bowie definitely did not sit still.
No, he didn't. Absolutely.
Especially in the 1970s.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we get to the 80s and suddenly it's Walking the Alien and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, he did a string of great records, right? Finally had the big hits, the big sort of American hits with young Americans, I would say.
Yeah.
Didn't see any of the money from that, right? Because of the management, and so I don't begrudge him for doing it. And actually they weren't bad records, the 2 records he did with like Nile Rodgers. Was it Modern Love and what was the other one? I mean, they were but again, he was able to, it's like, I want to cash in, make some money so that I'm not being chased around by creditors and all that, and good on him.
Yeah.
The fact that he could just turn around and say, okay, I'll do it, and did it.
Yeah.
And had some massive hits with that in the 80s. At a time where he was on a record deal where he actually did make very good money.
Yeah.
He was in that category with a few of the other artists who had great record deals. They sold lots of records at the height of the record industry, right?
Yeah.
So, and it let him go back and do whatever he wanted to for the next 20 years.
Exactly. Exactly. I just think there's a guy who, as I say, never stopped experimenting, never stopped thinking, never stopped expressing himself, never stopped being interesting. Because even those what you call failures that you don't really want to listen to, are still interesting. That's the thing. They're interesting failures.
Yeah.
When you listen to oh, my mind's going blank, but he did that drum and bass record with Little Monsters on it.
I think that was Outside, wasn't it? Or no, that was I'm just trying to think. I'm mixing them up.
What the hell was the name of that record? Anyway,
that was okay. I thought that was I preferred that to him sort of rehashing, you know what I mean? Rehashing the past, which I think was the bad part of some of his later output.
Yeah,
it sounded a lot like he was trying.
It was more like, it was more like he was in search of a direction. Is how it felt.
Yeah.
But yeah, those last couple of records, what a capper on a career.
No, definitely.
Really.
Definitely. Yeah. So last question.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, I've got two because I just came up with another thing that's interesting.
Okay.
The first one is years ago, it was interesting. I ended up getting an album purely on the cover, right?
Okay. I think we
Didn't
all
know,
did that here
yeah,
and there.
didn't know the artist, got the album, and it became one of my favorite albums of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the blue, I wasn't expecting it, and it was luckily the gatefold of the
Right.
first Roxy Music record,
Nice.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I what what experience did you have like that?
Well, I used to spend an awful lot of time in record shops.
I used to work in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Plymouth, where I live, used to have, at the height of its, was sort of like early to mid 90s.
Hmm.
It had probably 4 or 5 record shops, and those record shops, probably 2 or 3 were independent record shops,
Yep.
i.e., not chain shops
Yep.
run by people who were just nuts about music.
Hmm.
Um, and so you could happily spend an entire day in town, as we call it, just going from record shop to record shop, sifting through the CDs or the vinyl. And I used to spend a lot of my weekends like that.
Yep.
Um, I think I discovered I bought I bought some Blue Note stuff based entirely on the covers.
Yep.
And there was a set of albums. There was an album called The New Yorican Funk Experience
Okay.
that I remember getting hold of, that I think was inspired by how cool the cover was, because it was a shot of uh, a bunch of, it was basically like Harlem in the 70s, uh, and it was some kind of massive party that they were having outdoors, and it was on
Yep.
the cover, and it just looked so interesting that I thought I've got to have that album. And Capital Rare was another thing that I think that was Blue Note too. That was just some sort of like some very cool 3 or 4 color album covers. And again, I'm quite big into a lot of funk records and
Hmm.
funk music, and so yeah, I picked those up again based on how much I like the cover. Um, and I'm trying to think if there's a more famous example. Did I? What did I get? I mean, I bought so many albums. Uh, I think I bought an album. I bought in my heavy metal days. I bought an
Hmm.
album by a band called Nail Bomb. Right.
Yeah.
I was looking for the most extreme kind of metal that I could get my hands on at that time, and I think it was a collaboration between Max Cavalera from Sepultura and one of the guys out of a band called Fudge Tunnel, and the cover was that horrible picture of that very famous shot from Vietnam with the muzzle of the gun against the girl's head.
Yeah.
You know the shot that I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
talking
I know
about?
exactly the shot.
And at the time that I was buying that record, I'm angry, like an angry 17 or 18-year-old
Hmm.
or whatever. And I just want I want the most metal thing that I can possibly get. That is pure aggression. And I picked that up and I thought, this is bound to be that record. And I think I listened to it once. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Uh,
know.
I was
Yeah.
just it was just that idiot moment where I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
this is gonna do it." And
Yeah.
through an adult lens, you look back and think, "What was I thinking?"
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely did that. I mean, man, I did it again and again and again and again with records.
Yeah, well, listen, I think that the downfall of the record industry started when they went over to CDs,
Maybe,
because
but at the
I
time,
think that a lot of the actual um, impact of the album, and let's face it, the cover art of the album was an important factor, right?
yeah,
In every record, right? And
but it still was. It was still a huge thing for
yeah,
me
and,
with
and the moment it went to the
CDs.
CD, it became so much smaller and you know, and then harder because of course they had to put them in all these crazy things to keep people from stealing them, and you know what I mean. Whereas a record's
Yeah.
hard to steal, right?
Yeah,
It's an
true.
awkward shape, right?
I guess I started buying records at the time that CDs and vinyl coexisted quite
Yeah,
happily in record shops.
yeah.
And so a lot of my happiest memories of that period are me sifting through CDs in these 5 or 6 record shops that we had.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so for me, CDs, I still love CDs now. Um, and that's one of the reasons that I love being signed to Lights and Lines is because we still put CDs out,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
I
yeah. No,
think
no, no. It's
we would
and listen,
100.
CDs have a lot to, you know. You're lucky in England. I don't think it got as bad as in Canada, but the
Right.
last few years, the pressings were
Yeah.
so inferior.
Oh,
Like the
really?
quality was so bad. You
Yeah.
were lucky to get a record that didn't skip.
Wow.
Yeah, and so well, I think they were doing it purposefully, or they were saving money and using like recycled vinyl, or I don't know what it was, but they were just
Yeah.
like they just kept getting worse and worse.
Right.
And so at some point you wanted to go over to CDs because you're just tired of needing 12 copies before you have one you can play,
Yeah. Right.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it definitely, there's obviously that big argument: what's better orally? Is it the record or is it the CD? And
They're,
they're
they're
just
just
different.
they're
They're
just
different.
different experiences.
Yeah,
Vinyl is warmer. It is.
yeah,
It's a different experience. It hits you. The music hits you in a different way.
yeah, yeah,
Um.
yeah.
But
Warmer and then louder in a sense too, without being, you know what I mean?
yeah, you've.
Like more
It's
clarity, or I don't know
just.
I don't know how to describe it, with a
It's
brand
just a
new, a
more.
fresh new stylus, when a reasonable system,
Yeah.
you know, with a good pressing, like a good Japanese pressing or whatever, something. No, but really a deep groove on a,
Yeah.
proper vinyl where they'd spent the effort to,
Yeah.
you know. Anyway,
I don't know. It's more of a vinyl is so tactile, and the way that it hits me, it's as I said, it's warmer from a
yeah,
fidelity point of view. CD wins every time.
yeah.
Um, but you can't beat kicking back, having relaxing. I think there's something about vinyl. I discovered this over the pandemic. Actually, I went back to a lot of vinyl, and I really enjoyed the. I really enjoyed getting a book, putting on one of my favorite records, and tuning out all the noise, all the digital stuff,
Hmm.
everything at that time, like because
Yeah,
every digital device felt like a portal to doomsday almost. It's kind of like all doom all the time when
yeah.
COVID first started.
Hmm.
And the narrative was kind of like, we're all gonna die in the very beginning.
Yeah,
Uh, which a lot of people forget now. But that's what it was. And so I really needed a coping mechanism. And I don't know how you felt, but at the beginning of the pandemic, when I wasn't working, or when I was working from home for a little while, but I wasn't doing that much, I felt like I couldn't really be creative because I felt like my energy was being spent just trying to keep things normal, like just trying to keep on an even keel and try to tune out all of the doom and gloom was
yeah,
taking all of my energy away from me, trying to keep things good for my kids, all that stuff.
yeah,
And so I fell back on these simple, reliable, tactile pleasures. And that's something that I haven't let go as time's gone on now. And I really developed a whole reappreciation, particularly of vinyl, of the needle hitting the groove, and being able to just kind of read and listen
yeah,
without anything digital to
yeah,
remind me of what's going on in the outside world or
yeah,
distract me.
yeah. Exactly. And that 20 minutes or so of length.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the worst thing I think about the CD was the fact that so many artists ended up trying to cram 84 minutes of music on it when they probably had about 40 minutes of music that should have been
Yeah.
released, you know.
I quite like short albums. I mean, there are
Yep.
exceptions to this, but for myself, I enjoy like Running with the Outliers that I put out in 2019 before I
Hmm.
signed to Lights and Lines. It's only got 7 tracks on it. Now,
Hmm.
the last track is probably 7.5 minutes long,
Yeah.
but still, I think it tops out as just under 40 minutes of music. It's
Yeah.
38 minutes or something like that. And for me, I quite like those kinds of albums,
Yeah.
like around 7, 8 tracks. Sometimes that's the sweet spot.
Hmm. Yeah.
It
No.
just
And
depends
the
depends what you got.
format, the format forced you into that, right? Because the
Well,
shorter it was, the wider
yeah,
you could have the grooves, therefore the better the fidelity,
sure, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
there was sort of a sweet spot of length that
yeah,
you'd want to hit, because if you tried to cram too much on, the quality
yeah,
would just plummet, right? Because the
yeah,
grooves weren't deep enough.
but
And you really had to think about it before you put out a double album.
yeah,
That was a
sure,
whole
yeah,
other level of commitment. Whereas anyone doing a CD, and you really notice that it's like they went from 10 songs and now there was 17 songs. And you're
yeah,
skipping through half of them because they aren't very good songs half the time, right?
yeah,
There's a rare band who
yeah.
could
I mean, I
sustain
think
it over that length of time.
I think there's something to be said as well for the listening experience with vinyl. It forces you to engage with the record, whether you know it or not, because
Yeah,
you got to turn it over. You got to physically pick it up.
exactly.
You got to
Yeah,
turn it over, and whether, however unconscious a process that becomes, it's forcing you to do something. It's
yeah.
forcing you to engage with it, pick it up, look at it, look at the song title, all
Mhm.
those kinds of things, side A, side B,
Yeah.
thinking about stuff in those kinds of terms. And I don't think I've ever grown out of thinking about side A and side B when it comes to records.
Oh, no,
I think
definitely.
and that comes from tapes as well, really.
Mhm.
Um, which were a big thing when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's
No,
interesting.
definitely. So, last question.
Yeah, sure.
What was the first thing you bought?
The first,
First record
the
or
first rec.
tape or CD?
I think
And hopefully it's the more embarrassing, the better.
the first tape that I bought, I think, was some kind of like rock compilation, probably maybe even like a soft rock compilation.
Okay.
Okay, and
Yeah.
from Smiths, which is a famous chain here in
Yeah.
Britain.
And
But
did you remember the song that was the reason why you bought it?
oh
Because I'm sure there was
no,
one song that was the driver behind it.
no, it would have had. I can't remember what it was called now. It wasn't like now that's what I call music or anything like that. But it was
Yeah.
it was just one of those like
No, we used
almost
to have in Canada. They were called
yeah
KTEL
yeah like
Records, and
yeah.
they were edited versions of all the hits.
Yeah,
You know.
I would struggle. I can't remember what was on it, but what I do remember is my first actual record.
Hmm.
So the first 7-inch that I bought was an AC/DC double A side, and it had Hell's Bells on one side, and it had Highway to Hell on the other side. And they were I think they were the live versions,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was great. That was that was really great. And then the first 12-inch that I bought would have been I think it was a single by a band called Little Angels, which you would never have heard of, I don't
Mhm.
think.
No,
But
I
again,
never heard of it.
they were like a hard rock band from West Sussex here in Britain, and they were that was a song called "She's a Little Angel" that my cousin had got me into, uh, and yeah, so there you go. So, but I bought that from an independent record shop in Plymouth called Rival Records.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
Yeah. So those were the first. That was the first proper record that I bought. Yeah. But
Oh,
I would.
great.
Then the first ever CD. This is the
Okay.
last thing.
It's no problem.
I do remember this. The
Okay.
first ever CD album that I bought was U2, Actung Baby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you still listen to it?
I still love that record. Yeah, I still
Yeah.
love that. I love U2. I saw them play at a big stadium in Cardiff. Probably now. Let's see. My wife was pregnant, so with our first child. So yeah, about 13 years ago.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I saw them for the, just trying to think what tour it would have been.
I think
The
this was
early 80s, just when
all
they,
that you can't leave behind. I think was for me.
yeah. No, I saw them in Montreal at the Olympic Stadium
Wow, cool.
for, I'm trying to think, I think it was whatever album came out before the Joshua Tree. Would have been,
Was it Rattle and Hum that came out before that?
I'm trying to think. I think it came out at, maybe it was the Rattle and Hum tour, but
Yeah.
it would have been sometime in the like 84, somewhere around there, 85, that
Okay.
period. I'd imagine
So
maybe
what?
86. It was
Yeah.
early, but not, it wasn't Boy early, but it was, it was
So what?
probably the third or the fourth album, maybe the
Oh,
fifth.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
But it was before Joshua Tree, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And how was it?
It was myself and the other 70,000 people there. it was the show was too big. The venue was too big.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was a good show.
Yeah.
They had who was the backup band? They had the fun backup band that the Gypsy Kings were their
Oh, really?
backup, and that was fun. They were really
Yeah, I
good.
bet it was. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it was a good choice of a backup band too,
Yeah.
actually, for them. Not to have another rock band.
Yeah.
I think it worked out better for everyone. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
but
remember.
I would have preferred to have seen them much earlier on, but it was one of the shows I missed. Or I
Right.
don't even know if they toured Canada for Boy. I'm not sure if they did.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure
was
that
I
they.
was I was working at a record store at that period. So
Yeah.
I ended up seeing all kinds of great shows in the early 80s, all that sort of post-punk, the sort of what came to be called new wave. I
Yeah.
saw, I saw some crazy shows, Simple Minds, OMD, when they were touring like their big record sort of thing,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
before, before they, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was in a venue of, I don't know, 300 people, like
Right.
a really raw, like a
That's brilliant.
concert venue with a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
sound stage, like one of those ones in a converted theater or one of those
Nice.
converted vaudeville theater type things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So you really kind of like feel like you're up close and personal
Yeah.
with the band, really.
No, I knew because you are right, and you can go
Yeah.
right up to the stage. Like I like one of the shows I remember the best of that period, and it was the club was called the Spectrum in
Hmm.
Montreal. Was REM?
Oh wow, I love
Uh,
REM.
yeah, for Murmurs for their first record.
Amazing.
That was a great show.
I
You
bet.
knew they were going to be big.
I
They
think
just blew, but they were just, it was so intense.
there's nobody really. There's not like another parallel for Stipe anywhere in the current popular music world. I don't think.
No.
I don't think there's anyone who has stepped into that realm of being. There's something about the way that he puts lyrics together and thoughts together that is completely unique to him.
Yeah.
And REM just have something really completely different. And I'd never get tired of some of their records.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
they
with it-
listen, the early stuff
yeah,
up to, I would say, probably Automatic for the People, which was probably their best record. I thought that was a great record. That you could listen
Yeah.
to over and over and over and over
It
again.
is an amazing record. It is.
But the early stuff before then, I would say I'd probably, but that's like most artists, you know.
Yeah.
Like Talking Heads, it's all the early stuff that I really like.
I don't know. See, with REM, I really, really loved Monster.
Yeah, see,
Uh,
they lost me there. It was just,
yeah,
it
I
was
can
like
understand that.
it became too arena rock almost,
I understand that, but
you know.
for me, it hit me at just the right time.
Yeah.
And then New Adventures in Hi-Fi, I think, is a
Hmm.
really, really underrated REM record.
Yeah.
Um, and again, it's about what time it hits you, isn't it? It reminds me of a very
Totally.
particular period in my life, and
Yeah.
it's just got such a level of intensity to that record. I don't think it gets enough love, and I quite enjoyed parts of Op as well.
Mm.
They did some really interesting stuff on. I think that's the album with Lotus on it.
Okay.
Uh, and all that. But then once they start getting to stuff like Around the World and all that lot, they just feel like they're spinning their wheels.
Yeah.
And there's that last run of a few albums that they had was just the sound of a band kind of running out of steam, really.
Well, or running out a recording contract. You know, it's
Yeah,
often
yeah,
the case.
maybe,
I
maybe.
mean, not everyone has to be as extreme as Lou Reed, right? You know, with
Another one of
metal machine music. You know, I want to
yeah,
get out of this record deal, so here,
yeah.
release this double album of white noise.
He's another one
Wow, that
though.
was great. Have you
Lou
ever
Reed
listened to that? Did you ever
Lou
listen to
I
it?
think I did once.
Yeah.
I don't think I got more than 3 tracks.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that has to be one of the most extreme records ever,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Just white noise, the whole thing. Anyway, my friend,
Yes.
great time, great talking with you.
Good talking to you too.
Yeah, all the best with your new record, although it's gonna be released. Well, I'll have to have you back then in March or so
I
when
love
you
that.
actually release it. So why don't
Yeah,
you remind me when you're getting close,
I
and
will.
we'll
I've
figure
got a lot
something
of
out.
work to do before then, believe me.
We've got all kinds of time until then in any case.
Yes.
In any case,
All right,
take
well, thanks
care.
so much for having me
Oh,
on. It's been
no,
a lot
it
of
was
fun.
my pleasure, and have a nice evening.
And you too.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Thanks
lot, man.
everyone so much for watching through to the end, and be sure to subscribe. And I'm going to stay online, and we'll say our goodbyes. But I'm going to put all of your details in the description as well, just so people
Thanks,
know.
man. Thanks,
Take
Martin.
care.
Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Bye.